Okay, Scott Schmerelson, board member for the last 2 terms on the LAUSD school board. I really believe that experience matters a lot, especially in these times. And it's the school board member's job to make sure that things are running smoothly at all the schools, not only at Beaudry, but at all the schools. And it's very important for me that I visit my schools and I see what's happening. I do have 105 schools in Board District 3. I visit every single one of them every year. And that doesn't even include going to concerts and graduations and fun things too. But it's important to go into the school to see what is happening, to notice what the instruction looks like in the classroom, to go into the special ed classroom, to make sure there is a sufficient number of people working with the students, to also check to see how teachers are doing their professional development, and especially in elementary school when the kids have PE, or they call it psychomotor, the teachers then move together to a room, go over data, and discuss how they teach their classes by grade level. Now, in the secondary schools, they do it by subject level, and there is, despite what people may say, there is lots of communication between teachers on instructional matters. One of the important things for me in the district is to make sure that things are working properly. And that is why I work with the cafeteria people, with the custodial people, with all the operational things that happen at school. You know, instruction is number one in school, but we have to make sure that our schools are safe and functioning well, and that people are doing their job at school. And I just have to say that in all my terms on the board, we have always had a positive ending balance for our schools. So despite the gloom that people like to predict, we are making sure behind the scenes that there is sufficient funding for our schools. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, first question. The NENC has asked the LA City Council to support the passage of the proposed LAUSD resolution improving special education within the LAUSD. As a board member, what would you do to support children with special education needs, particularly those whose disabilities are severe?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Carl. Very close to my heart, special ed, extremely important to making sure that our teachers are well trained, and more important than that, to make sure that they have what they need in the classroom to serve our kids. Now, one of the things I am very much in favor of is making sure that our kids are moving towards inclusion in the gen ed class, because I think my goal is to make sure if kids can be included in the gen ed class, it should be done. But here's the problem. In many schools, they think that inclusion means you just move the kid into a gen ed class with no preparation, and that's not how it works. There has to be close communication between the gen ed teacher and the special ed teacher. There has to be services provided for the special ed child who goes into the gen ed class. It's not fair to the child. It's not fair to the teacher. It's not fair to the class when you are not providing help for that teacher to be able to welcome that student into the gen ed class. So my goal for special ed is to do so. I also run the special ed committee at the board, and we hear parents, we have topics, and we make sure that we discuss things with parents on the panel, with teachers on the panel, and with special ed supervisors on the panel also. Very, very important. And lastly, I know I have to hurry up. Lastly, dyslexia. When I first came on the board, that was my goal. That was my goal, to recognize dyslexia, to diagnose dyslexia. When I first got on the board, they didn't want to talk about dyslexia. They didn't want to say, oh, it's not part of the IEP. It's a medical thing. I said, it's not a medical thing. It's a learning problem. So anyway, we are really moving forward. Thank goodness the governor is going to be helping also in testing for for dyslexia and understanding how serious it is. Dyslexia is not only a reading disorder, it's a behavior disorder, because kids who can't read start acting up in the classroom because they are so frustrated that they can't participate. Thank you.
Thanks. Question number 2. The NENC has expressed concern over charter schools' $3,708,006 unpaid balance for over allocation fees. As a board member, how would you bring transparency to how space in public schools is allocated to charter schools?
Thank you, Carl. You know, when I first came on the board, there was a big secret, and the big secret was what do the charter schools actually owe the schools for over allocation? I asked to release information, and we had our superintendent, Austin Buechner, would not release information. We had our Megan Riley, who later became the interim board superintendent, rather. They wouldn't tell. And I knew that there was a balance that was owed. And I knew there were charter schools who said, heck no, we're not paying. We don't believe we owe anything. And nobody would do anything. And I couldn't speak because it was in closed session. I would be a violation of the Brown Act to report things that were not supposed to be discussed with the public. Well, lastly, and I find this very hard to believe, at our last board meeting, we were told that everyone is up to date with what they owe. And I still don't believe that. I will follow through with that. What happened was I asked Mr. Buechner, I said, you made an agreement with the charter schools to pay maybe 10 cents on the dollar for what they owed. Never was revealed to us. This will never happen again with any of our superintendents. This mask of secrecy with how much money our charter schools owe us is just terrible, and it will end. Taking space from the gen ed class is just a terrible thing. Taking away our science labs and our math labs and our places where students and teachers would meet together for conferences, parent meetings, IEP meetings. These things are all valuable to the school, and they have been taken by the charter school when they weren't even needed, because at the end, 80% of all our charter schools are not full. Okay.
Thank you. And third question. In September 2022, it was revealed that the LAUSD's computer systems had been hacked. Despite assurances that personal information had not been released, later reports showed that sensitive information for some children had been disclosed. As a board member, how would you ensure accountability for the failure to prevent the hack and for the missteps in the aftermath?
Well, Carl, let me just tell you that we are making up for that terrible mistake of not being perfectly honest with everyone about what happened. We have hired additional cybersecurity people at the district to work specifically against hacking. And I know that all of us, our employees who work at home or are doing things online, in order to get into the LAUSD net system, there's several steps that you have to go through to be able to connect with the district. And it's quite annoying to have all this time to get on the system, but I understand how important it is and why we have to do that. Yes, there were mistakes made, but we have made up, I'm telling you, by behind the scenes, seeing what is being done, which is being purchased to protect our schools and our kids. And it was terrible, and it shall not happen again. It shall not happen again. And if any inkling of a hack happens again, the public will know immediately. We will do that as a board. We will do that. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And 1 minute for a closing statement.
Yes. Once again, schools are so important to me. My kids, my teachers, my employees, I know they don't belong to me, but I feel like they depend on me to make sure that things are going smoothly, and I have to watch their back and make sure that our kids, again, are getting a good education. Our employees are taken care of. Benefits are there. Salaries are there. We can't lose any teachers because it costs so much money to retrain new teachers. Let's keep our excellent teachers happy, well paid, and with good benefits. And that's my ending statement. Thank you, Carl.